Hello there. Hey, thanks for joining us today on Dr. Teach Me to Parent. This is an important program. It's a good program, but it's an important one today, as we're going to really deal with some issues that are not just local here in Fresno, but they're worldwide. You know, the whole issue of crisis pregnancy. So we're going to be led in our discussion today with Kristi Burkhart, who is the director of the Pregnancy Care Center here in Fresno, and been doing that work now for over 20 years, I guess, if we can say. And she comes with a wealth of experience and wealth of advice for us as parents and as teenagers and as young adults, and kind of look at this whole issue of crisis pregnancy. And so get a cup of coffee, sit down, kind of relax, take in the hour here with us as we unfold this topic and come to a better understanding of how we deal with issues like this in our community, but also within our own family and obviously very personally as well. Let me start with a quote and give you a quote today, which I always do, and kind of put this into a little perspective, and maybe this will be helpful to you as well. Rearing children is like drafting a blueprint. You have to know where to draw the lines. And I think that's kind of the concept of every parent, is that there are lines to be drawn. When your kids are 3, you draw certain lines. When your kids are 13, you draw certain lines. When your kids are 23, you draw lines. You alter the lines. You reshape the lines a little bit. When your kids are 33, you draw lines and you reshape the lines you've drawn before. So drawing lines is kind of a way of looking at parenting. There are certain things you do. There are certain things you don't do. There are certain behavior patterns that are acceptable and are within the lines, and then there are certain behavior patterns that are outside the lines. And when we walk outside the line and engage in various kind of behavior patterns, we pay a price for that. And there's consequences with that. So we're going to take a look at that, and this is just one area where this kind of comes to play. The lines that parents draw or don't draw, should have drawn sooner, should have drawn differently. So as a parent, kind of think of your job as drawing lines for your kids in the same way that you would draw a blueprint in building a house or building a building or anything else, because that's really what you're doing. You're really building a structure that's going to go on for a lot of years into the future, and your lines are going to tell the story. Your lines are going to dictate the story. Your lines are going to determine the story. Your lines are going to shape the story. So draw lines, parents. Okay, there we are. So put that into perspective, and Kristi, welcome. Nice to have you with us, and we got some good stuff to talk about.
We do.
And you know how to talk about it. So, but I'd like to know this, is that you've been the director of a pregnancy care center, crisis pregnancy center. I guess we use those terms interchangeably. But how did you get there? What were the kind of the personal events in your life that kind of brought you to this kind of a job? I mean, not everybody can do this.
No.
This is unique.
It is very unique. It is very unique.
Was there something that kind of tipped the scale and said, yeah, this is really what I'm suited for and what I'm born for, basically?
You know, doctor, I think that I was in the position before I even looked back and realized all the things that had brought me to that place. And I'm thankful for that. And I do feel like I'm well suited to the position, but you know, life has always been an important issue for me, because even myself, I'm adopted. And I didn't really understand what a little coal I had in my heart for moms in unexpected pregnancies and moms making decisions about those unexpected pregnancies until I decided to step in as a volunteer at Pregnancy Care Center. And I remember coming for an interview about becoming a volunteer, and I was sitting down with the woman who was in charge of that, and she was so warm and kind, but I remember her asking me a lot of questions about what I thought about women in crisis pregnancy and how I would approach this topic. And I remember thinking, oh, she's interviewing me to see if I have, you know, what kind of an agenda or what kind of belief system do I have about this. And I remember this was 20 years ago. So I was in my young 30s and I was a young mom. And I remember thinking, oh, she's interviewing me about this position. What she doesn't know is I'm interviewing you. Because I really
It is
wanted,
mutual, by the way.
it is. I
Yeah.
wanted to make sure that this organization that I was willing to volunteer for loved women, and that they treated women with kindness and respect, and that I cared about the baby in the womb, absolutely, but I understood a little bit about the women, and I wanted
I like that
to
concept
change
because
that.
I think you really hit a good point there, because when we think of Christ's pregnancy, we usually think of the kind of the womb and the baby and the issues related to that, but really it was the woman herself that you really try to connect with and have connected with over the years. That's been your
Yes.
heartbeat, huh?
It has been,
It's the
because
person.
it is. It's the person, and
We
it's the
forget that
family.
sometimes. We
Well,
get involved in all the issues, and we forget that there's a person here.
right, and the idea that life in the womb is valuable and priceless and created in the image of God.
Sure.
But so is the woman sitting in front of me.
That's right.
She is just as valuable. She may not need the same amount of protection or care or the same type, but if I can't respect and love her, then how is that going to be translated to the life in the womb?
You know, you made a very profound statement there, and it's one that I want you just to reemphasize. The woman in front of you is just as important as the baby in the womb.
Yes.
We sometimes separate those two out. One is more important than the other,
Yes.
and you said no. They are equally as important.
Yes.
You meant to say that?
I did. I did. I think that all human life is equally as important. And I think that that's an issue in our culture today that is also profound. So obviously, children, and Dr. Hedberg, I love how you were talking about those lines that are being drawn. You were saying, think about yourself as a parent. And I'm thinking about myself as a parent, and the lines that need to be drawn. And of course, that's an issue with unplanned, unexpected pregnancy too.
Sure. But you come to this job with kind of a personal experience.
Oh my goodness.
Kind of in a personal agenda too. I mean, it's a caring agenda. It's one of love and caring and compassion and support, and hopefully the rebuilding of lives and the rebuilding of opportunity.
Yes, and I know that you and I hadn't talked about this, but the other thing that drew me to being a volunteer at Pregnancy Care Center over 20 years ago was that I had a friend that had gone through an abortion experience, and she was so hurt and damaged by that, and in such a place of turmoil and brokenness, that was the other thing. So there were just all these things that drew me to this, and I
Sure.
didn't understand the passion that I was going to have when I first stepped into the doors of Pregnancy Care Center as a volunteer. But definitely and then even being a business owner and being able to
Yeah.
run an organization, it's just a multitude of things, really.
Let me ask you this: the Pregnancy Care Center sees only women,
No.
or men as well?
Yes.
Who do you actually serve?
Well, so
If you can help put that in
Yeah.
perspective.
Yeah, so Pregnancy Care Center is a fully licensed medical clinic. And so our primary mission is to provide medical services to women in unexpected pregnancies, along with advocacy, resources, and referrals to the community for things that we don't provide.
Sure.
But with that, men, particularly, always, but about 5 years ago, we started recognizing, or maybe it's been about 7 years ago, how often the men come in with the women who are getting a pregnancy test or an ultrasound. And we've always allowed them to come into the advocate room for the results of the pregnancy test, if she's asking that they're there, and also for the ultrasound. But most of the time, they were just sitting in the lobby waiting.
Oh,
And we thought, why aren't we sharing with
That's
them
right.
too? Why are we not giving
That's
them
right.
support? So about 7 years ago, we started our men's program. So now when a guy walks in with a girl for a pregnancy test, we provide an opportunity for him to also become a client and to meet with an advocate and to discuss issues and the situation that they're in. and give him
Everybody has an issue
resources.
to be discussed. And
Yes.
you can't overlook that.
No, and so that also has led to having classes that are just for guys and fathering 15 classes
Yeah.
so that they get the support that they need.
I'm glad you said that, because in the national scene today, we don't hear much about the man, the boy. Kind of left out of the conversation. His wishes, his desires, he's left out of the decision-making
Right.
Process of what is the next step and what steps
Yes.
are to be taken. So I'm glad to hear you include, the male in that whole process of decision making, the education, and what the next steps are, because there's steps for both.
Well, and our mission statement says that we provide help and hope to women experiencing unexpected pregnancy. And it kind of hit me that what better help and hope does she have than her guy stepping up and giving her the support she needs?
That's right.
That we need to equip him and educate him so that he can be that for her.
Yeah, it's to rebuild a relationship, a family now, and
That's right.
to kind of move forward.
Yes.
I'm sure.
Yes.
Yeah. Is there a unique population that you serve? Seems to me that you probably serve a large number of teenagers.
Right.
I don't know if it's pre-teenagers or mid-teenagers. Is that your population, or is it quite varied age-wise? What's
Yeah.
the age group you serve?
Well, so unexpected pregnancy happens in all childbearing years. So our highest demographics right now is college age, 18 to 24.
18 to 24 is your highest population?
Yes. And then the next group is the group older than that, like 24 to 32.
Is that right? Uh-huh.
And then our third group is the junior high school group.
So it's college age, post-college,
Yes.
and then pre
Yes.
college.
Yes.
In terms of the numbers of
Clients
people you
that
serve,
we're
the
serving.
groups.
Yes.
That's how they group themselves, huh?
Right. And I'm not exactly, that's shifted over the years. And I'm not exactly sure why that shifted, other than perhaps birth control being introduced so early. But we also know that birth control among teenagers isn't very successful. Because it's something that they have to be very consistent with, and most teenagers aren't very consistent with anything.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure why that has shifted over the last 5-10 years.
When you talk about ages, that's probably an important factor in terms of you making plans because you deal differently with the pre-teenager.
Right.
On the post-college population, a 31, 32-year-old woman, those are very different. And so you have to serve, I'm sure, quite differently. But they're all afraid. The
Right.
commonality here, the common bond, or the common issue of all of them,
Yes.
I'm sure, is fear.
Well, and isn't that true even when you're married and expecting a baby, and you're wanting a baby, and you're trying to have a baby, and then the second that you get that positive test, you feel some fear? That there's a spectrum, and
That's
I
right.
think that we feel hope every single time, but we feel fear every single time. So it's just levels on that spectrum. I think even someone who is not wanting to be pregnant, there's something innate in her and in him that feels a sense of hope and expectation of a child, and then it's just so confusing and it's so conflicting. It's just very conflicting.
When people come into your agency for a service, no matter what age that person might be, they come alone or they come together with somebody. I mean, a sense of that support system
Yep.
that they come with. Are they lacking a support system, or do they have a support system? Or
It-
you try to build one?
Yes, it varies. It really does vary by each person. I think about a third of our clients walk in with a support person. Maybe it's a sister, a friend, their mom.
Only
or
a third?
About a third.
That's not very many, by the way.
No. 2/3, I think, walk in by themselves. Of course, this COVID situation has
that's
changed.
Maybe, but
But I'm
Apart from
thinking
that.
I'm
Yeah.
thinking really pre-COVID, because right now, their support person needs to wait outside. But our goal really is to help them identify some of their support system and to give them an opportunity. Okay, so you have a positive pregnancy test today. Let's talk about who your support system is. Let's think
right.
about the time frame that you have. Just no matter the decision you make, let's give you time to make that decision. Don't make it today. Make it 3 days from now or 5 days from now, so that you're not making it based on just the emotion of the moment.
That's the pressure.
That is the pressure.
Great pressure of, I have to do something now.
Right now. And I
Yeah.
think that many clinics are real quick about that. Make this decision today. We can help you right now. And the girls leave the clinics with the process already started to terminate the pregnancy, and then they feel they have no way to step back from that.
So a woman, a man comes into your agency and they have a test and they find out that there is a pregnancy. Okay, now, what would you say are the 3 or 4 major programs or services that you would call upon or put in place for that person? Now, I'm sure everybody's a little different,
Yeah.
but are there certain basic 3 or 4
Yes.
aspects to your program that you say everybody really needs this?
Yes. So the first thing that we're going to do is offer them a free ultrasound, and we'll schedule them to come back for that typically. So it might be, a couple days away. It might be a couple weeks away, because we want them to have that ultrasound at a time where they can really see what's in the womb. So if they're only 4 weeks pregnant, we're going to want it to be at 6 weeks so that they can see. Then we're also going to offer them a referral for doctors in the area, so that they have a list of doctors for them to call and get established with. We are initial pregnancy-related services and don't take the girls through their entire pregnancy. So we start them off and then help them get established with a good doctor here in Fresno, Clovis area. The next thing that we're going to do is make sure that that they have their needs met outside of the pregnancy. So maybe there's housing issues or domestic
that's what I was wondering,
violence. Yes, or maybe there's resources that they need, or just whatever it is. We're going to look through our resource list and make sure that whatever their needs are, that we refer them to other organizations within our area that can help them with those needs that we can't help them with. And then we're going to let them know that we have classes for them. So on top of that, we have parenting, childbirth, all kinds of classes for her and for him, and they can come to those, particularly to the parenting and childbirth classes together. If he isn't involved in this pregnancy at all, then she can bring another support person, her sister or her mom or whoever it might be, that is going to help her raise this child to those classes as well. And those classes, they earn points, and then they spend those points in our baby boutique so that they get actual material resources for this expected baby now.
Yeah. So it's really a full range of services that are available.
Right. And we want to continue to support her throughout her pregnancy and even, shortly after the baby is born.
Sure.
So it's not just about her and the child for that moment of the pregnancy test. As long as she wants to continue support services at Pregnancy Care Center, then we want to continue those.
So what's the estimated cost for somebody to kind of access those services initially, or?
So for her, cost is $0.
What?
Oh yeah, for
What?
us, yes. So we don't bill her insurance card, we don't bill Medi-Cal, we don't ask her for a dime. This community supports these women and families
Tell me about
100%.
that. When you say this community supports your agency, the services you provide, so
Right.
that they're free services,
Completely free.
who's your support system then?
Well, you are part of that support system, Dr. Hedberg. We have we have hundreds of donors in this, in our area, in this metro area of Fresno, that support us. And some of them are monthly donors, some of them are annual donors. On top of that, we do have churches that support us through their missions. And we have a few families that have family foundations that support us. We do some fundraising events. We have a fundraising event in the spring. We have a ladies' high tea in the fall. Our annual budget is right around $1 million a year now, because we have our main center, our North Satellite, and a mobile clinic. But we are 100% funded by this community, which means that all of our services are free to the community, to the girls that walk in, to the guys that walk in, to places that want us to come do presentations. we never charge for anything, and I'm so thankful for that.
Beautiful.
It is beautiful. It is.
So somebody watching this program today,
Yes.
there's a message there, isn't there?
There is.
If you are sympathetic to this issue and to
Yes.
this problem that people experience, this might be a place to kick in a few bucks
Yes, please.
and send it to you. There's the information at the bottom of the screen there, your address, right?
That is our address, and there is a donate button at pregnancycarecenter.com. So that's one way you can donate online. I think the more important thing to me, thank you for that. Of course, we need your funds. But most importantly, all the people that are listening have a sphere of influence. And so they can share who we are and the services that we provide so that we can reach more women and families and provide them our free services. That is the number one reason that we exist. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad for you.
Thank you.
I'm glad for what you're doing, but I'm glad for Fresno. That we have you.
Yes.
That you're here, and that our greater Fresno Clovis area, that you are a vital service. Without you, there would be a great void.
Thank you.
For a large number of people who really need this type of service at a very particular time in their life.
Last year we had over 900 positive pregnancy tests. So there were
that showed up at your offices.
And that's just the positive test. Our negative test clients that come for a pregnancy test and it's negative, we still have support for them to help them understand, their bodies and their relationships and how can you avoid this situation in the future of an unexpected pregnancy. They're just as important as our positive test clients to love and serve and to care for. So we do serve a lot of people in this community, but not enough. We want to serve more. And Pregnancy Care Center has been in our community for over 35 years. So it's not a new upstart organization. It has a foundation of health and service for years and years.
Is there a need in our community for something more? You're doing a lot. I mean, there's always that issue of what more could you do, or what other needs are out there that could be met. Do people come with some kind of an issue, some kind of a problem that you can't deal with because you just don't have the resources, or you don't have the time, or whatever? Is there a need out there that needs to be addressed?
I think that there is. I think that there's options and services for young families that are learning to parent young children.
All right.
And our parenting classes really help support them through that pregnancy and that early childhood development, really early. But there's a point where our parenting classes aren't really designed for them. So by the time your children are 2, 3, 5, 8, I think that the parenting classes there needs to be another place for families to go in our community to really continue to learn how to parent their children. We have to get degrees to clean teeth or to teach children in school, but we don't have to get degrees to become a parent. And it's our most important job.
Yeah.
It's a huge job.
Yeah. Should have a license.
Yes.
That's where the licensing should come in.
Yes, yes.
An identification and a license.
Yes.
Hey, we need to take a break. You've been doing very well, and give you a break here just for a moment. But when we come back, I want to ask you a question, Kristi. Abortion. It's a hot ticket item in our society today. People are talking about it. Dollars are being spent enormously for it. A lot of emphasis upon more of it. So the question is, do you, as an agency, perform abortions? Do you support the abortion industry? Are you part of that, or do you take a little different approach than the abortion issue itself? So we'll come back and we'll talk about that when we come back. So you may give us some thought, to that. And when we come back, I'm going to introduce an idea to you that if you are in need of a parenting class, we have one for you. We'll see you in a bit. Get a cup of coffee and come on back in just a few minutes.
The Green Gables Care Home is a 24-hour assisted living facility for the elderly located in Clovis, California, offering spacious private and semi-private rooms which are wheelchair approved, catering to the special person in your life who needs attention and wants to live in a loving home environment. The Green Gables Care Home has assisted living in secured homes for elderly with Alzheimer's, memory loss, and for your loved ones needing assistance with their activities of daily living. Call 559-297-9438 and visit greengablescarehome.com.
Sometimes good intentions hurt rather than help. For just $1.76 per meal, the Fresno Rescue Mission offers more than food. We offer hope. Please donate today.
Do you need a locksmith? Layman's Lock and Safe Service and Repair is available for you. 559-228-1805.
Gained a lot, learned a lot, and got a lot of love. If it weren't for the knowledge that I had gained from the classes at PCC, I probably wouldn't be the mom I am today. See, there it goes.
I would love you to meet my son, Aaron. My situation was very difficult. I didn't know how my life was going to turn out.
We graduated in June 2010, and we got married in July. And through family, the Pregnancy Care Center changed our lives.
The Pregnancy Care Center was a huge, vital part in helping me walk through that pregnancy, in educating me and loving on me during that time.
Choosing a Medicare plan can be difficult and frustrating. Susan Hatch can guide you through the Medicare maze and help find the right plan for you. Susan helps people understand the confusing and drastic changes that occur every year in Medicare. Susan will only recommend plans that will protect your assets and allow you to continue to see your personal doctor. As a 100% independent agent, Susan is not controlled by any particular insurance company to steer a person onto any one particular plan. Susan was awarded the #1 Medicare supplement agent in California. Look for Susan's Medicare question and answers every Monday in the Fresno Bee. Call Susan at 559-307-2287 and visit MedicareToday.net.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Okay, welcome back to our discussion with Kristi Burkhart, the director of the Pregnancy Care Center here in Fresno. And as we've been talking about the issues of crisis pregnancy and the services that your agency provides, as we took our break, we just talked about some of the classes that you provide and the need for parenting classes, and you offer parenting classes. So I was indicating that, yes, I've written a course on parenting.
Yes.
It's online. You do it on your own leisure. There it is in front of you. It's entitled Parenting Better. It's authored through Fresno Pacific University, and it's an online course that you take at your own leisure and helps you think through the whole parenting process and skills that you need to improve your own parenting. So if you are in need of a parenting class, no matter why, whether the courts assign you to one or you just want to take a parenting class for some reason, here's one that you can do at your own leisure. Do it over the course of a month or 6 months' time or whatever time you take. $25 at Fresno Pacific University. So just access that site there, and we'll know you're going to have a good experience in learning and picking up your own parenting skills, and it's something that maybe some of your women,
Yes,
might
absolutely.
participate in and benefit from. So, say before we took our break, I asked you the question about abortion.
Yes.
I was reading just recently the statistics, for Planned Parenthood, 358,000 abortions annually. And the cost of that to the taxpayer, they said, was $658,000 annually. So it's almost double
Yes.
in the numbers. So it's a huge issue. It's a huge industry. It's a huge process that people become involved in. And so I guess to start out does the Pregnancy Care Center here in Fresno provide abortions?
We don't, Dr. Hedberg. We don't. We are
That's not a service you
No.
provide, okay?
No, we are a life-affirming organization, and so we don't provide or refer for abortion. However, we do educate on abortion, not with any graphic pictures, and we don't use any pictures or videos that depict that.
Oh, you don't?
No,
Yeah,
no.
that's often been used, yes.
Yeah, no, we don't, because we find that to be disturbing sometimes and emotionally
It is.
manipulative.
It is.
And so that isn't a philosophy that we fall under. We really, again, have so much respect for the women and the men that we're serving, and we want to give them information so that they can make a decision that they understand and can live with for the rest of their life.
Sure.
And so just giving them the medically accurate information of what an abortion entails by permission. That's the other thing, is Pregnancy Care Center is permission based on everything. Can we share this information with you? Would you like to look at fetal development pictures? So we'll show fetal development pictures, but not abortion pictures. So we want to educate on abortion. We want to encourage them, he and her both, to take time before they make a decision, that the abortion procedure that they're going to recommend for her place in pregnancy isn't going to change drastically within 3 to 5 days or a week, that we can offer them that ultrasound. So just take the time to make this decision and not rush into it. And then if you choose to terminate, Pregnancy Care Center is there for you if you struggle with that decision, or if you need help because you find yourself in another unplanned pregnancy. If we love her and treat her with respect, then we have the opportunity to serve her in the future. If we are harsh and manipulative, then our opportunity to continue to serve her is going to go out the window, and we don't want that.
Yeah.
So while we don't provide or refer for abortion, we have a little bit different philosophy on how we approach that than some organizations.
Yeah. I've been a psychologist for 50 years, and I've seen lots of women who have had abortions, lots of them over the years. And most recently, 2 days ago, I was talking to a woman who's had 2 abortions. But I was searching my memory and searching my experience, and I cannot find an example of a woman who has had a positive experience with abortion, or would advocate for it, or would say that was the right thing to have been done. Almost universally, there's a breaking down of crying, and there's a story that unfolds as to how that abortion came about, how it impacted them, how it affected them. And it's a sad story. It takes me a whole hour often to kind of talk with a woman regarding her experience, having gone through that abortion experience and the sadness of it. It's a tough one. Nobody is happy about it.
No, we find the same thing.
Do you?
And we have lots of our staff and volunteers that have had an abortion experience. And so, we're ready for the women that have that in their history, and we're ready to love them and serve them where they're at. We do have a program and a 12-week study and small group study to work through that experience with women, because even in an hour, it isn't something that they don't revisit often in their minds.
Yeah.
And the women that are coming for healing for being post-abortive are coming for healing sometimes within months, but oftentimes it'll be 30 years ago that they
Oh yes.
they
Oh yeah. It doesn't matter how many years back. Yeah.
know, and
Yeah.
they're still hiding it. Their families
Yeah.
might not know, their husbands might not know about it, and they're feeling such shame and such guilt. And we want to help them find freedom and to heal those hurts.
There's a need for grief.
Yes.
It's a grief group of a different kind.
Yes, they've
You know,
lost
we always think about
something.
grief groups are for death.
Yes.
You know, and for our older population and so on. But this is a form of grief as
Yes.
well. It's a very powerful one
Yes, it is.
and affects people's lives deeply. I really feel badly, that people have taken that choice, and often it's choice under some force, under some pressure, time pressure, pressure from an outside source of some kind that's made them make that decision. Now they
Pressure.
regret it.
Pressure to finish college, or pressure to, I'm not ready to get married, or so it can come, that pressure can come from the father of the baby, but it can come from family and friends as well.
Yes. And it comes from media.
Yes.
Yeah, it comes
Yeah, it
from our
does.
culture today. It comes from our political world today that
Right.
this is the thing to do.
Right.
And trying to legitimize it. But you don't legitimize this. I don't think you can ever legitimize an abortion.
Right.
I think it always comes with an emotional overtone.
Well, and I think that one of the things that I've found to be true is that when you get a positive pregnancy test, you can't erase that positive pregnancy test. You can change the outcome, but you can never go back. And so a family, a woman and a man who have seen and know that there's a positive pregnancy test, then it comes around later to what could
Sure.
have been, that there could be a 5-year-old today, or there could be a child graduating high school. That child still exists in their mind, even though they've terminated it.
Yeah.
It just keeps popping up for them because you can't erase that positive pregnancy test.
Yeah. I have to ask you the question about preventativeness.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Can a crisis pregnancy be prevented?
Absolutely. It absolutely can. And I believe in sexual integrity and healthy relationships, and Pregnancy Care Center has a HOPE team, Healthy Options and Prevention Education, that can talk to groups and group homes, and we can be somewhat in schools if we're invited in. And I believe in healthy options in prevention education. And I have a teaching credential, and that's another area that brought me into this, is that I was teaching abstinence-based education in the schools for Pregnancy Care Center before I became director. And young people can get it if you can share with them how they can live a healthy life and just postpone sexual activity until they're actually ready for it, which is within marriage. But even if you, because I believe that junior high kids are making those decisions, they're not necessarily engaging in intimacy, but as junior high kids, they're already making their decisions about what they believe about that. So if you can help them understand what healthy relationships look like and what sexual integrity looks like, then they can start to make a plan for themselves that will take them to marriage. And anytime you are postponing intimacy in longer, you're protecting yourself. You're protecting your head, your heart, your reputation,
Sure.
your future,
Yeah.
your future
Yeah.
children. You're just protecting yourself. And so, absolutely. But young people have to hear the message and make those decisions for
I call
themselves.
that drawing the lines.
It is drawing the lines.
Because if you don't draw lines, then anything can happen.
Right.
And get out of whack, obviously. But when you draw lines, then you take some responsibility, you take some control, you take some shaping of life. So the question that I have is, you're only one person, you're only one agency, you're only one voice out there. What about the voice of government, the voice of the church, the voice of the school, the voice of parents, the voice of grandparents? I mean, there's all kinds of people that can pour into the life of a young girl, a young boy, 6th grade, 5th grade, junior high, high school, and on.
Yep.
Are we missing the point here? Is that not being done?
No, I don't think that it is being done, not like it should be. And I think that particularly the California Ed Code is not doing a good job of helping young people draw lines. And, as parents, we can draw those lines for our children. And I think it's got to start at home so that the children then can start to understand, and teenagers can start to understand the messages that are coming at them from the world that don't line up with what they're hearing from home. And that has to be addressed by the family too. Like, you're going to hear a different message out there.
There you are.
So how are you going to manage that?
Yeah.
And ultimately, I think as parents, and our youngest is 16, our oldest is 31. And I will just be completely honest with you. You change as parents, and you do a great job in some areas, and you miss the boat in others because we're just not perfect. But one of the things that I've found is to have very high expectations for my kids, teach them better than what I did. To be honest, I was pregnant when I got married, and I would like something different for my kids. And so to be honest with them, share my own mistakes in a without a lot of detail, but share my own mistakes so that they can learn from my mistakes, help them understand that I've been there. Chris and I, my husband and I, remember what it's like to be your age. That kind of closes that generation gap. And expect this, but be willing to catch them when they fall below that expectation. Because we just are human, and we fail ourselves, and we fail one another. And we have to have that grace and that love to catch our kids when they fall, but don't lower that expectation.
I was reading a research study sometime back about the voice, who has the voice of influence over a teenager.
Yep.
Mother.
Yep.
Mother. Not dad. It's not the church. It's not the school. It's not grandma. It's mother. Mother has the most powerful voice of influencing the decision as to whether a teenager will become involved sexually prematurely. Mm-hmm. And the unfortunate part of that is, and I've talked to a lot of mothers about this, that mothers don't speak up. They may make a suggestion. They may just talk generally. They may just say, well, or something of that effect, but don't really speak up clearly and definitively on this issue. Maybe we need to educate mothers as to how you talk to your teenage girl and how you talk to your teenage boy.
Yeah, I think that particularly moms with teenage boys don't speak up because there's, you feel like, well, dad should take this role. Mm-hmm. But I agree with you. Sometimes dad takes the role from a different angle.
Yes.
So it's really important that moms speak up. And Pregnancy Care Center has a curriculum that we can do in small groups called Parenting for Purpose and Passion. So parenting our teenagers to set goals with purpose for their life of passion. So parenting for purpose and passion. And honestly, it's a curriculum that I helped develop because I agree with you. I think it's so important that parents are actively engaged with their teenagers on this subject.
Yeah.
Last night, and my kids were like, really, Mom, do we have to go there? But last night at the dinner table, something got brought up and it led to a whole discussion. And my boys were, here we go again, because Mom is constantly doing that. So my kids have not had they've had a very bold mom with that. But I think, and our family, my daughters, I have one daughter married with 4 children that did not experience that level of intimacy until her marriage. But my other daughter had an unexpected pregnancy and made an adoption plan for her firstborn. So even, with all of that, our kids are going to make their own choices, because both my daughters, Alexa with her adoption plan for Jackson, she was college age. She was actually graduating college when that situation happened for her. And it was heartbreaking, and yet it's also very beautiful.
I was going to ask you that. Thanks for bringing that up. Is adoption being advocated more today? Is it adoption services being utilized, or is that kind of less today than it used to be?
I feel like it's less, and yet I I don't know, Dr. Hedberg. I really don't know. I feel like adoption is a beautiful option. And
It is an option. It is available.
yes, and we need to.
You don't do adoption services yourself.
You know what? We don't do any of those kind of services because we want to be that advocacy place so that they don't feel pressured by us. So we have adoption agencies that we work with that we refer to.
That you could refer to. Okay.
Yes, but we aren't an adoption agency. And I will tell you that most women that make an adoption plan are 23 and above. I think that it's a very selfless and mature thing to be able to do. So younger girls, they just aren't there yet. I mean, their frontal lobe hasn't even developed.
That's
So
right.
they can't really
That's
think beyond how that's going to feel for them. And that's understandable. I've learned to be able to understand that. But adoption can be a beautiful thing, but it's a hard thing. It's not an easy decision.
I want you to assume that watching today on our television program are a group of teenagers, boys and girls. They're in the ages of 15, 16, 14, 13. What are you going to tell them? What would you like to tell them?
I'd like to tell you that you deserve the very best for your life, and that nobody is going to be able to make decisions for you. If you decide that you want to be intimate with your boyfriend or your girlfriend, you're going to find the time and place for that. Nobody can protect you from that except for yourself. You have to take responsibility for your decisions. But there's lots of people who want to direct you to a place where you can have a full, happy life without as many consequences and brokenness. So think hard about the decisions that you make. Set your goals high and put people around you that are going to help you reach those goals, that are talking healthy to you and that are helping you strive for that.
Well said. Well said. I couldn't add to that.
I don't know. Honestly, I just want to
That's
take you all and teach you. It's not enough. 2 minutes isn't enough.
all right. Flip that around a little bit. Mom and Dad's out there watching.
Well, again,
What's your message to mom, to dad? Any same message or different?
no, I think, again, it's that setting very high standards for your kids and being there and available for them. I mean, like, especially as teenagers, it's like they're toddlers again and they're learning to walk, and you need to be ready to pick them up and set them on a firm foundation and set them going again. They need you. They need you day in and day out. You need to know who their friends are. You need to have them at your house instead of everywhere else. Set high standards for your kids and love them through the mistakes that they're making. Don't forget your own mistakes and close that gap, that generation gap, by being honest about your own mistakes that you made so that they can say, oh, she really does relate. Communication is key with our teenagers.
You know, I'm a grandparent.
Me too.
What's the message to grandparents? I mean, they're usually outside the conversation on this topic. They're gone. But is there a message to grandparents? Can grandparents play a role in this whole issue of abstinence or wise choices and decision making and living your life honorably that you speak about?
Yeah, you're going to make me tear up just thinking about that. As a grandparent myself, of course, my oldest grandson is 5. So, but I think absolutely, because do you remember, grandparents, do you remember being parents, and do you remember how taxing that is, how 24/7 that is? So as grandparents, if you can step in and give your children support so that they can be better parents and take that time with your grandchildren, you have an influence over your grandchildren that their parents don't have. And when you can, even at the appropriate time and in appropriate language, even share your, don't forget what it was like to be a young person, and share your struggles and share your experiences with your grandchildren, then they start to even think, wow, Grandpa's pretty cool. And the reason that it makes me want to tear up is because I've had my 16-year-old recently say, things like, I can't believe what Grandpa used to do, and so the stories that happen between grandparents and grandchildren.
Well, it's a bonding.
It is.
It's a bonding experience when grandparents open up and talk.
Yes, and
That's
when
right.
Alexa found herself in that unplanned pregnancy, talking to her grandparents was something, she was living in Texas, and she didn't want anybody to know that she was pregnant until she had a chance to fly home and sit one-on-one with each set of her grandparents, because she wanted to tell them herself so that she could respond to even their facial expressions. She was very determined, and that shows the bond that she had with her grandparents, that she wouldn't allow us to tell them. She wanted to tell them herself because she was afraid that they would be hurt or disappointed or worried, and she wanted to address those things with them herself. That tells the level of power and influence grandparents have with their grandchildren.
I want you to assume that watching today are a group of pastors and priests and rabbis. What's your message to the church? What's your message to the church leadership?
Well, we know that people depend on you.
Yes, that's true.
To set a standard, and yet it's a extreme responsibility. As a faithful believer that grew up in a church I grew up Seventh-day Adventist, and so our schools and our churches and our homes were all wanting to be in alignment. I want to say that young people, that you support what's happening at home. It is not completely on you. And yet so many homes want to say it's up to the church to teach. Keep doing what's right. But for me, I understand that it starts at home and that you support what's happening at home. And I want to ask you to just teach biblical truth. Take these issues to the pulpit and speak biblical truth. This is not a political issue. Pregnancy Care Center is not a political organization. But the issue of life and the issue of family and the issue of integrity and character is biblical. So keep up the good work that you're doing. And if there's anything that Pregnancy Care Center can do to help you with this, please let us know.
Oh, so you're available to, let's say, a church or even a school for that matter. Do you go out to classes and give classes, give lectures, give?
Yes, the Parenting for Purpose and Passion is a wonderful program to have at the church for the parents, and so is the Hope Team's Purpose for Passion to the youth group. So we have curriculum that we can come out and do with your students and with your parents.
So you're available.
Absolutely. We are here for this community. We love our community, and we want to strengthen.
And there's no
this
charge
community.
to that. If you went to a
Never.
church and you gave a seminar of some type, you do that as part of your services.
Always free.
That's neat.
Always free.
Well, why doesn't churches take advantage of this?
They are. I had a call from a pastor yesterday. And you know, Dr. Hedberg, we also have a program called The Love Approach. It's a 2-hour seminar on how to stand in the gap for the sanctity of life as a layperson. So we can teach how to recognize someone in a crisis pregnancy, how to listen carefully to who they are and what their needs are, and then how to step in and help them in that place.
You said it. That's a bingo. Teach people how to listen to those that are in difficulty.
Yes.
And the speaking will just come naturally, but you got to listen. If you don't listen to the story, you miss the whole point.
And if you go in with your own agenda,
that's right.
Then you can't.
Well, then
hear
you're wanting
her.
to speak. If you come with an agenda, you're a speaker.
That's right. And you can't
if you come
hear.
in listening, you don't have an agenda. Your agenda is their agenda.
Yes.
Your story is their story.
Yes.
So it's the listening skill. That's really where you start and you build on.
Yes.
Hey, thanks for today.
Oh, thank
This
you
is
for the
wonderful
opportunity.
discussion. I appreciate what you said. I'm going to end with another quote. And you may want to even comment about it as we kind of bring this to a close today. Here's the quote for the closing. Nobody bruises as easily, but heals as quickly as a child. Want to comment about that?
Oh, I think that isn't that a hopeful thing for for adults with their children?
It is.
Because we make mistakes as parents.
Yep.
And we have to apologize for those mistakes. But our kids are so quick to forgive us and to just go along their happy way again.
That's
Yes.
right. Anyway, thanks for today. Thanks for joining us today on our discussion of Dr. Teach Me to Parent. And this has been a very important topic as we need to learn the skills of parenting our kids through the rough waters of the teenage years and the post-teenage years as they face critical decisions, life choices, and life consequences. So, parent, it's your job. And as I commented earlier, much of this falls on the mother's shoulders. It's just what the research shows. Whether you like it or not, Mom, speak up. Be educated. Get on board and speak your piece. You need to do it. Kids need to hear from you. Don't wishy-washy on this issue, okay? Hey, thanks for joining us, and bye for now.
The in-house services we offer here at Total Life Change: anger management, one-on-one biblical counseling. We do a marriage enrichment, codependency and chemical dependency one-on-one counseling. We have a relapse prevention piece. We also do a lot of workshops where we inform and educate people on different topics. There is one-on-one individual sessions, and we also have group therapy that we work in a group. We find that can be so advantageous when you know you're not alone. The key is to call, email, online, and get a hold of one of the receptionists here, and we will do an assessment. We are not here to direct, guide, and force. We're here to meet you where you're at, then direct, then guide, and then give you options to break free.